This is chapter 16, which is titled Brother Wolf. If you can remember, Matt and Maria are in the secret passageway because of what happened at El Viejo's funeral. So let's get started. It's even hotter in here than outside, Maria said, wiping her face. I'll find an empty room we can hide in, said Matt. He showed her the hidden peepholes, and Maria was both repelled and fascinated. Don't tell me you sit in here and watch people, she said. No, Matt was offended. He wasn't above the eavesdropping at dinner where he wasn't inviting. That was simply getting back at people who snubbed him. But what she'd suggested was nasty, like people peeking through a keyhole. You must think I'm a... Hey, I'm not the one with the secret passage. What do you think made it? Or who do you think made it? Maria's whisper sounded explosive next to Matt's ears. It tickled and sent shivers down his neck. El Patron, I guess. So let's pause here and think about, why would El Patron need secret passages in his home? What are some things that you can think of that would cause him to need to sneak around his own house? All right. That figures. He's so paranoid. He's always spying on people. Maybe he needs to. He can't be using the peepholes anymore, said Maria. Can you imagine trying to squeeze a wheelchair in here? Don't make fun of him. I'm not. Really. Listen, can we find a room before I melt into a puddle? Matt rejected several rooms because he had seen people in them. But at a bend in the passage, he remembered a warehouse with computers and other equipment. Everything had been covered with plastic sheets. It seemed to be a place for things El Patron needed, but didn't want in full view to spoil the effect of his old-fashioned house. Matt helped Maria over a tangle of wires into the darkened room. Wow, it's cool in here. It was more than cool, Matt realized. It was icy. It smelled faintly of chemicals. A slight breeze stirred the hair on his arms, and a hum vibrated almost out of range out of his hearing. I guess computers need air conditioning. Isn't that just typical? Maria said. We can shrivel up in the heat, but the machines get a first-class hotel room. They tiptoed around the equipment and spoke in whispers. Matt saw things glowing under the plastic covers. So the machines were on. What they were doing and what were they for? Let's sit somewhere and talk, whispered Maria. Matt found a nook between the two shrouded hulks where he thought they might be warmer. The coolness at first was welcome. Now it was beginning to get uncomfortable. They sat close together, as they often had before Maria was sent away. I've decided to forgive you after reading The Little Flowers of St. Francis, Maria began. You remember the wolf I talked about? Well, he was a monster who terrorized everybody until St. Francis gave him a talking to. He was sweet as a lamb and never ate anything but vegetables after that. I don't know how wolves could digest vegetables, said Matt, who had studied biology. That's not the point. St. Francis didn't say, I'm going to punish you for all the wickedness you've done. He said, Brother Wolf, today is a new day, and you're going to turn over a new leaf. Matt held his tongue. He wanted to say he didn't poison Furball, and he didn't need forgiveness, but he didn't want to spoil Maria's mood. So I realized I was being unfair, and I should forgive you. After all, wolves don't know they aren't supposed to eat peasants. And Maria leaned against him in the blue shadows of the equipment room. Matt's heart turned over. She was so beautiful, and he had missed her so much. Thank you, he said. So you have to promise to be good. Okay, said Matt, who would have promised her anything at that point. You have to mean it, Brother Wolf. No running off to the henhouse for snacks. Oh, I promise. I'm sorry. I promise. What do I call you? Saint Maria? Oh, no, she said. I'm not a saint. I have all kinds of faults. I don't believe it, said Matt. Maria told him about how she had struggled not to lose her temper at Amelia, how she had copied someone's paper when she forgot to do her homework, and how she ate ice cream when she was supposed to be fasting. Matt, who didn't bother about being good, thought it a waste of time to worry about faults. Have you been baptized? He asked. Yes, they did it when I was a baby. Is it a good thing? Well, of course. Without it, you can't go into heaven. Matt didn't know much about heaven. Hell was mentioned a lot more in the shows he watched on TV. What did the priests mean? That I'm an unbaptized limb of Satan? Maria leaned against him and sighed. Oh, Matt, I'm sure St. Francis wouldn't have agreed with him. You aren't evil, only... Only what? Well, you don't have a soul, so you can't be baptized. All animals are like that. I think it's unfair, and sometimes I don't believe it. After all, what would heaven be like without birds or dogs or horses? And what about trees and flowers? They don't have souls either. Does it mean heaven looks like a cement parking lot? I suppose this is what the nuns call a theological problem. Do animals go to hell when they die? Asked Matt. No, of course not. You can't get into there with a soul without a soul either. I guess I thought about it a lot when Furball died. You simply go out like a candle. I'm sure it doesn't hurt. You're there 1 minute and then you're not. Oh, let's not talk about this. Matt was astonished to find her crying. She did cry a lot, he remembered. He hugged her and kissed her tear-streaked face. I don't mind. If I had a soul, I'd probably wind up in hell anyways. They sat together for a long time saying nothing. The room was so cold they both were shivering. I do like being with you, Maria said at last. There's nobody at my school so easy to talk to. Can't you visit me again? Said Matt. Dad says I have to stay away. He thinks. Oh no, I hear voices again. Matt and Maria jumped up and ran for the door at the same time. She tripped on the wires and he caught her and boosted her into the passageway. He slid the door shut just as the door on the opposite side of the room opened. They stood for a moment to catch their breaths. Warm at last, she said contentedly, rubbing her arms. Matt listened attentively to the voices outside. That's Tom, he said quietly. Really, where's the peephole? Let me see. So let's just stop there because Maria just got on to him for spying on people, and here she is. It's her prime opportunity, and so she thinks it's okay to go do it. So it's kind of funny to see her switch that. All right, so we're right here where he says, I thought you didn't like spying on people. I only want a peek. It is Tom and Felicia. Matt put his ear to the wall so he could hear better. Find them here. If they're anywhere in the house, said Felicia's slow, hesitant voice. And for an instant Matt thought she meant the passage, but then he heard the sound of chairs being moved and the whirl of a machine. Hey, that's the salon. It's completely empty. El Viejo is all alone. Now remember, this is El Viejo's funeral. It should be all about him and his death and what he meant to his family, right? You would think that. But listen to what she says. No one cares. He was unusable. What do you mean? Felicia laughed, a shrill, alarming sound. His liver was gone. His heart dried up. You can't get transplants from a cancer patient. I guess he's just compost now. And Tom laughed. Felicia laughed too. And Matt was deeply shocked. He couldn't produce tears for El Viejo, but he did feel sorry for him, lying there like a starved bird in his silk-lined coffin. Matt gently moved Maria aside. She didn't protest as he had expected. She seemed as stunned by what she had just heard as he was. Matt saw that one of the large computer screens was brilliantly lit. Then he realized it wasn't a computer at all, but some kind of camera. He saw an image of El Viejo with his beak-like nose poking out of the casket. The picture blurred and shifted. Tom was working on the controls. That's the music room, said Felicia. And Matt saw a grand piano, stacks of music, and Maria's black cat sitting on the table. They were there, cried Tom. He moved the camera lens to show all angles of the room. Felicia took over now, and she seemed to have a lot of experience using the viewing screen. She moved rapidly through the house, even showing the servants' quarters and storage closets. She paused over Celia's apartment. Celia had collapsed in a big easy chair with Tam Lin not far away. Where could they have gone? Said Tam Lin, pacing up and down the restless energy Matt remembered so well. The bodyguard's voice was tiny and faint until Felicia increased the volume. Maybe they aren't in the house, said Celia. He wouldn't take her there, Tam Lin said. How do you know? If he was desperate enough. Careful, said Tam Lin, looking straight into the view screen. Celia changed the subject and began discussing the funeral. So if you can remember, both Celia and Tam Lin have made comments about this whole idea of someone spying on them. And so we now can find out that it is absolutely true that they are in there and they're able to see into the home. And so that's why Tam Lin took him to the oasis. So what do you think they're talking about right here where they say, he would, maybe they aren't in the house. He wouldn't have taken her there. Where is a secret place that Matt is outside of the house? What do you think? Absolutely. The Oasis. I know y'all got that. All right. All right. Blast. They know about the camera, said Tom. Tam Lin knows everything, said Felicia. El Patron dotes on him. Take her where? Shouted Tom, smashing his fist into the table covered with shrouded machines. Something fell over and broke. Oops. Felicia grabbed his hand. Matt knew what Celia was talking about. Tam Lin must have told her about the hidden oasis. Matt hadn't considered taking Maria there, and he certainly couldn't do it now with everyone hunting for him. They could be outside, and she manipulated the image to show the stables, the swimming pool, the gardens. Matt was startled at the lotus pond and a pair of ibises lazily stretching their wings.